Namaste. There's a growing category of online influencers who claim they've uncovered a massive hidden truth about history, religion, race, and identity. Their message usually sounds something like this. Everything you were taught is a lie, the real truth has been hidden, the elites don't want you to know, and you're finally waking up because of me. And one of the most common versions of this online today revolves around claims espoused by Afrocentrist charlatans that the biblical Israelites were secretly black, and that mainstream history deliberately concealed this fact, and that only a select group of awakened people, in quotations, know the truth. Today, we're going to examine how this rhetoric works and why so many people get pulled into it. The first thing to understand is that these movements usually don't begin with evidence. They begin with a worldview, with a conspiracy framework, a worldview built around distrust. Distrust of institutions, distrust of academia, distrust of science, distrust of historians, distrust of religion, distrust of media. Once someone accepts the idea that everything mainstream is a lie, in quotations, almost any alternative narrative can start to feel believable. That's why many people who fall into one conspiracy theory often slide into others, such as flat earth, such as Illuminati theories, such as hidden civilization myths, such as secret bloodlines, such as apocalyptic prophecies, and identity-based historical conspiracies. The common denominator is not the individual claim, it's the mindset. A lot of these influencers use the same persuasive techniques. First, they present themselves as brave truth tellers. I'm exposing what they don't want you to know. Second, they frame disagreement as proof of suppression. Oh, if people criticize me, it means I'm over the target. Third, they mix real history with speculative interpretation. For example, they may show ancient paintings or religious icons depicting biblical figures with dark skin and claim that this proves that the Israelites were black. But historically, as we know, religious art often reflected the local population. European Christians painted biblical figures as European. Ethiopian Christians painted them as African. Asian Christians painted them as Asian. That is not evidence of ethnicity. That's how religious art worked historically. Then comes the emotional hook. Oppression, slavery, exile, suffering, hidden identity, chosen status. This is powerful material psychologically because it gives people meaning, purpose, belonging, and a feeling of being spiritually awakened. Then there's the Deuteronomy argument. One of the most common arguments used in these movements comes from the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 28. The reasoning goes like this. The chapter describes suffering, slavery, exile, and oppression. Black people experienced slavery and oppression. Therefore, black people must be the biblical Israelites. But this is not how historians or biblical scholars actually interpret ancient texts. The curses in Deuteronomy were written within the context of the ancient Near East and covenant theology surrounding ancient Israel itself. And throughout history, many peoples have experienced conquest, exile, enslavement, discrimination, diaspora, and suffering. The argument works emotionally because it creates a sense of prophetic destiny, but emotionally compelling does not automatically mean historically accurate. Now, here's why people get drawn into this hogwash, this filth, and this garbage. One mistake people make is assuming everyone who falls into these belief systems is unintelligent, is incredibly credulous and naive and gullible. That actually is usually not true. This is a misconception. Often, people are just isolated, spiritually searching, emotionally vulnerable, frustrated with society, or looking for certainty in a confusing world. Any type of situation, in any type of situation resembling any of these. So conspiracy ecosystems offer something extremely seductive, a complete explanation for everything. Why society feels broken, why people suffer, why institutions fail, why history feels confusing, and most importantly, they offer identity. They tell followers that they're chosen, that they're awake, that they're among the few who know the truth, and that can become psychologically addictive. And this is when it starts consuming people. The problem comes when the ideology stops being a curiosity and becomes someone's entire personality. You start seeing compulsive evangelizing, an inability to discuss normal topics, hostility toward disagreement, emotional manipulation, increasing paranoia, social isolation, and obsession with hidden narratives. Friends and family often describe the same experience, that they stop recognizing this person. And once someone is deep inside a conspiracy worldview, criticism itself gets reinterpreted as proof that the conspiracy is real. That creates a self-sealing belief system. There's nothing wrong with questioning history, religion, or institutions. Critical thinking matters, but critical thinking also means applying standards consistently, checking sources, understanding historical context, distinguishing art from evidence, and being willing to question emotionally satisfying narratives too. Because once a worldview teaches you that everything outside the movement is deception, you're no longer investigating reality objectively. You're entering an ideological system where the conclusion is already decided before the evidence is examined. And that's exactly how conspiracy ecosystems keep pulling people deeper and deeper in. If you've seen friends or family fall into online conspiracy rabbit holes, if you've seen friends or family being misled at the hands of Afrocentrist charlatans who hoodwink Christians into believing they're black, you have my condolences. And this is where I end my dissertation. Thank you for watching.